Okay, good evening everybody. My name is Peter O'Dierna. I am the Executive Director of the Bennington County Industrial Corporation. I'd like to thank the organizations that helped put this event together. That would be the Bennington County Regional Commission, the Better Bennington Corporation, the Bennington and Manchester Chambers of Commerce, and the Agency of Commerce and Community Development. On behalf of all of them, I'd like to welcome you to the first Southwest Vermont Beer and Spirits Forum. Vermont has a great brand in this space. For example, Hetty Topper is the #1 ranked beer in the country, and Whistle Pig is the #1 ranked whiskey in the country. Bennington County has the assets to augment this Vermont brand. We have the right people here tonight, both from Montpelier and other parts of the state, as well as the local folks who have spent a lot of time and energy exploring the entrepreneurial activities that it takes to open a microbrewer or micro distiller. So on behalf of everybody, I'd like to thank you all for coming. At this point in time, I'd like to introduce Dan Stroll from the Bennington Young Professionals Group. Dan is also with Hemmings Motor News, and we approached Dan to see if he had any interest to offer some opening comments. Jump right at that. So thank you very much, Dan.
Thank you. Thank you. I actually wasn't quite sure why they asked me to come up here. I am not a home brewer. I'm not really involved with the local government here. I do like beer, so we'll go with that. That's a good start. Like you said, I'm here with the Bennington Professionals Group. And the Bennington Professionals Group, if you've never heard of us, we're kind of committed to making sure that college-educated young people kind of stay here in town and kind of elevate what we got going on here. There's a lot of potential to Bennington. It's just kind of hard to see it sometimes when you're kind of stuck at home and not really doing a lot. And the thing that we found with Bennington Professionals is that by just getting people together, we don't have any agendas, we don't really have any kind of grand plan. We're just going to get people together and talk. And the best way to do that, the best way to get people together is to get them together over a beer or over a drink of some sort. And the thing that I found that works great is that beer or drinks are really a good connecting medium. We're able to get people talking about not only the issues in Bennington, but how they can make things better in Bennington. And we're able to keep people here. We're able to fight the brain drain by getting people to talk over a beer. So I think that's really what we're looking for. We're not looking for any kind of a major cultural shift here in Bennington. We're just looking to keep good people here, and by providing more opportunities for that, by providing more connections for that, I think that can provide a good foundation for making Bennington a little better as we go along. And I'm actually very interested in hearing what we all have to offer here. Bennington does, like I said, Bennington has a lot of potential. We have, as our speakers here will show us, we have plenty to offer in terms of agriculture, we have plenty to offer in terms of manpower, we have plenty to offer in terms of location. It's almost kind of an ideal place to kind of bring this kind of industry here. So I'm very interested in hearing what everybody on our list here has to say. So let's go ahead and start with Terry Morris from the town of Bennington. I guess he's going to be talking about what we have to offer as far as water and sewer.
Hi, I'm Terry Morris, representing town of Bennington, Water Wastewater Department. I wasn't really sure the audience that I would be addressing tonight. I know nothing about brewing and distilling, but I'm here to say that Bennington has an outstanding quality of water. We have a surface water supply that comes from national forest land. It's filtered in winter at our water filtration plant, and it's sent on down to our distribution system. We also have a very unique store in town called Woodland Springs. It's an underground water supply.
You might need to hold that up a little bit.
We have had some extensive research done on that source. The water that surfaces there, is between 33 and 50 years old. It's a very pure source. Currently, we are mixing that with what's being filtered off the national forest land. And again, the quality of the water is extremely good. Currently, there is about 1.2 million gallons of unreserved capacity on the water side. We are serviced by municipal water right out front here in Route 9, and also serviced by municipal sewer down to the back in Bennington. We have about 2 million gallons reserved on sanitary wastewater at this point in time. What I've done, rather than sit up here and talk anymore about the water and sewer facilities, is I put together some packets for you. I'm right over here at the second table. I may not be here from the very end, but I'll make sure these my cards if we run out of packets. Please take my card, my email is on there, my telephone number is on there. Feel free to give me a call or an email requesting any kind of information that you would like. Most of these packets are made up of what we do for annual water quality testing. Everything from volatile, organic chemical, inorganic chemical, that kind of thing. I'm happy to talk with any of you at any point in time, so please give me a call and we'll see if we can't work something out and help you out. With that, our next speaker is Mr. Peter Austin, and he's going to talk about locally grown agricultural products.
Hello everybody, glad you're here and that I'm able to be here and participate in this first forum. I knew it wouldn't take long for somebody to mention Hetty Topper as being a very, very good beer. And I don't disagree, but there's no reason we can't make one equally as good right here. We put our minds to it. Rather than let all the action happen up north, let's bring it down south. By way of introduction, I'm a partner in Hoppy Valley Organics, which is a hops farm, organic hops farm in Powell, Vermont. Anybody who's spent any time driving down Route 7 in Powell has seen our setup. This is our second year. We had a very, very small harvest last year, which is what we expected. This year, so far, recognizing that we're one hailstorm away from disaster, we should have a significant crop. We have 4 varieties, standard varieties, Cascade, Chinook, Centennial, and Nugget. But over the last couple of years, we've done an exhaustive search for what we call heritage hops. Hops that have been growing in the wild since the hops industry left Vermont in the 1880s. And we've been fortunate so far to find 2 varieties. One way, way up in the Northeast Kingdom, another close to home. They are now in their second year, and we have about an acre and a half, 550 hills all of us have day jobs. We're not going to do any more hops farming. I mean, we'll do more, we're not going to expand our hops. But what we are going to do is we're going to take these varieties and start doing cuttings next year. Grow these plants in our nursery over a period of 3 years. And at the end of 3 years, we will release these varieties for general propagation. So these are hops that no one's made beer from for basically 150 years. So we're excited about their prospects because we're old and we got day jobs, and this is a great way to do it under lights down in your basement without getting arrested. In terms of other locally grown ag products, the other part of our business is the Vermont Tasting Room in Pownell, brand new, about 6 weeks. We took over what was the gift shop of the Hillside House Furniture Store, which was the last business going south on Route 7 across from Stewart's, and turned that into a tasting room and retail center for Vermont beer, Vermont wine, Vermont cider, Vermont cheese, Vermont sausage, other Vermont regional specialty foods. And so both of our businesses are dedicated to eating local, growing local, buying local, and we need to see that increase to the point where we get some critical mass. Instead of William and us, the only 2 hops growers in the area, we're the only tasting room in the area. We got one here, one there, one everywhere. This is a great opportunity for us to build critical mass, where we have people, farmers who are growing specifically for products, value-added products, whether they be beer, cider. My goodness, we've got enough apples around here. Why don't we have a cider? Distilleries, sausages, cheeses, you name it. Spruce tips, pumpkins. You guys throw in your beer, for Christ's sake, a malting house. Nature abhors a vacuum, and I hope we do too, because there's a vacuum here. The Vermont beer culture mostly exists north of Rutland, and that is one of the mistakes that we made when we started our business. That there is not enough critical mass that you can get down here of the Vermont beer culture. We need to start our own. And I know that we can do that, and we've got a good start, and look forward to great progress over a very short period of time. Thank you. And now, live from the USDA Rural Development, John, I'm going to butcher your name, Muse, John Muse from Brattleboro office.
Well, good evening, everyone. I first want to just thank Peter for the invitation to come out and be able to talk to you about the programs that we have available at USDA Rural Development. You probably all think of USDA Rural Development, they know about mad cow disease and they inspect meat. Well, Rural Development is a division of the department that focuses on rural America only, and that's why we're in the Department of Ag. Consider us more the economic arm of the department. Our mission is to increase economic opportunity and improve the quality of life for rural Americans. And we do that through financing activities. So we have over 40 different programs that we can deliver in rural America. We can deliver through a guarantee, a direct loan from our office, and then we have the all-elusive grant programs that everybody wants to know about. We deliver those programs through a rural business and cooperative service, a rural housing service, and a rural utility service. So we virtually have a program that can touch every aspect of a community and the people that live there. So when I was thinking about this particular possibility in Bennington, I was thinking about the brewers. And I thought, well, brewers need employees. Brewers need probably places to live. We have single-family housing programs that are affordable for people to buy their own home and live in a community, if not yourselves. And I have information at my table. The most important thing you get from me today is a business card and my telephone number, so don't try to absorb all this at once. Then I was starting to think about, well, we have programs for value-added ag producers. So that there's the for-profit arm that may be growing hops that wants to convert them into beer, and we have programs that might help out with facilitating that as well. We have programs in our business areas where Peter O'Dearner can come into us and he said, geez, you know, we got this facility over here. We have this concept, but we really need to get the business plan down pat to make sure that this is a viable, sustainable operation. We got some funding that can help Peter do that to benefit the producers or the brewers. We do have quite a bit of community facility type programs that you're probably not interested in applying for, but they're essential to your community, such as we fund libraries, we fund daycares, we fund hospitals, water systems, sewer systems. We have programs that will pretty much cover all those areas. One program that's very popular right now in the government is our Rural Energy for America program, which is for energy efficiency and renewable energy. So if it's a for-profit business that wants to put up photovoltaics to cut their energy costs, or they want to put in some sort of anaerobic digester, maybe there's a process in the brewing that could create energy that you could consume in your business or in a facility. So again, I have plenty of information in the back of the room about all the different programs we have. One thing to note is none of them are created equally. So if you heard rumors or had an experience with someone about a particular program, it doesn't mean the program that you might be interested in is exactly the same way. Some of our programs are very easy to navigate. Other ones are not for spectators. I will tell you, they are hard. But your fact is you have staff in the agency that will work with you. We're not a funder that just gives you an application and says, good luck. We work with people hand in hand, whether it's a housing application, a business application, or something in the community. So again, John Hughes, Rural Development, I'll be in the back there. You can always get to me through Peter as well. Peter calls me all the time. We talk about what we can bring to the table and figure out how we can invest in Bennington. We really would like to get our money into the community, rather your money, your tax dollars, back to Bennington. So anyways, thank you. I believe I turn this over to the farm-to-plate person, Janice Sinon.
Thanks so much. Can you guys hear me okay? Great. So my name's Janice Sinon, and I'm actually wearing two hats today. Normally, I usually talk about money, which I think we all need, we all use, would help grow businesses. I run a small fund called the VSJF Flexible Capital Fund, and we invest in growth stage companies in the value-added agriculture, forestry, and renewable energy sectors. But today I was asked to come down with my other hat as Deputy Director of the Vermont Sustainable Jobs Fund. And I'm just going to call it the VSJF because it's a lot of words. But the VSJF was one of the lead organizations back in 2009 that the Vermont legislature asked to create Vermont's farm-to-plate plan, farm-to-plate strategic plan, which is our 10-year strategic plan to strengthen the food system. So, by a raise of hands, how many people in this room have heard of the farm-to-plate plan? Wow, that's pretty good. Excellent. Before I go any further, I am curious as to who's in the room. I know we've got a few farmers, got some hops farmers. How many farmers do we have in the room? How many brewers? A couple. Any distillers? A couple. Who are the rest of you? All right. How many government folks? A few of those. Entrepreneurs? Foodies? Okay, did I hit every category, I think? I just wanted to know who was in the room to figure out where I can best focus my comments. I do have a lot of handouts and a lot of information. I'm going to just hit the surface right now, and then for folks who want to talk further, I'll be available throughout the rest of the evening. But just going back to the Farm to Plate Strategic Plan, it's a very important document, I think, for this group because it pretty much provides a soil-to-soil strategy of how to strengthen our food system, how to grow good quality jobs here in the state of Vermont in agriculture, and how to help us eat more local food and keep our dollars here in our own communities. As part of the plan that is actually in the process of being implemented, there's what's called the Farm to Plate Network, and those are a network of over 350 organizations throughout the state that are working together to actually implement the strategies that are in the plan. And for those folks who are wondering, okay, what does this plan look like? Where can I find it? I'm going to tell you one thing, and if you remember nothing else this evening, remember this: www.btfoodatlas.com. And I'm going to remind you that in the middle and at the end, because it's where all things Food Systems Vermont resides. And it's your website, it's the state of Vermont's website for all things food systems. And as part of that plan, it has indicators of progress. So we're tracking how we're doing over time to go from the number one goal of the plan is to double the amount of local food, and I will include beverages of all kinds, consumed by Vermonters over the next 10 years. So pretty lofty goal, but we're already on our way. The plan includes analyses of value-added food production, including chapters specific to hops and beer, and to the hard cider, spirits, and wine sectors. So 2 chapters that I read recently again to refresh myself before I came down here that has a lot of really good information about trends that we've seen over the last couple of years and what resources are available both to the farming community as well as producers. Some quick facts I wanted to just bring up as part of the plan, starting with the hops and beer sector. Vermont has more breweries per capita than any other state in the United States. Did everybody know that? I mean, I kind of figured we got a lot of breweries and we got a small amount of people. But our breweries are winning national and international acclaim. We talked about Hetty Topper, Hill Farmstead, and there are 32 breweries in Vermont focused primarily in Chittenden County. But I think, based on that, really, with a concentration in a small geographic area like Chittenden County, think of what you could do down here in Bennington, the southwest corner of the state, giving your access to what, I have a map that shows this. You've got access to over 400,000 people within a very small radius of where you are based on your proximity to New York, Massachusetts, and southern Vermont. There's really been a trend in consumers and brewers paying attention to where the beer and ingredients are coming from. Just like in wine, this concept of terroir, or taste of place, to differentiate products is really coming into play. And I think Bennington has an opportunity to market their terroir, your individual flavor, and create a marketplace that's friendly to all the players, suppliers, producers, and consumers. We do beer well in Vermont. And our biggest challenge is really getting local ingredients. And we've heard from Peter, who's talking about his efforts to grow more hops in the state, but that's going to take time. It's a little bit of a process. I think some of the other challenges that we've heard from folks is the regulatory process here in the state is well defined, but it can take time to get permits. And finding equipment at that smaller scale for the microbreweries is often a challenge. Who knew this fact? Vermont used to be the top producer, you did, Peter, top producer of hops in the mid-19th century in the country. But pests, diseases, competition, prohibition eliminated that. But we're trying to make a comeback, as you heard from Peter. There's hops farmers who are growing down in southern Vermont and up in northern Vermont. But we still lack that infrastructure and knowledge in growing, harvesting, processing, and distributing both hops and barley. We do have some great resources that I want to make sure you're aware of. The Vermont Hops Project, which is run by UVM Extension and Northeast Hops Alliance, are doing some projects throughout the Northeast, including Vermont. And they actually, as part of that project, recently built a mobile unit for processing hops, but harvesting is still an issue. The other main ingredients in beer is barley, but very little is being grown in Vermont. But there is one person at UVM Extension, Professor Heather Darby, who is working hard to do research on what types of barley might grow well in Vermont so that she can increase the knowledge of the farming community around that. The other piece that we're lacking, but we're seeing actually happening, is the infrastructure for malting barley in New England. There is a craft malting movement that's emerging with the craft beer movement, and Vermont's first micro-malter, slow hand malting, launched in 2014. So we're starting to see some more activity related to the whole supply chain for making beer here in the state. I'm not going to get into the sales and distribution specifics, but distribution model is an important factor for brewers and distillers in getting to market. And there are many different models, and destination breweries as tourist attractions can be one route versus selling to retailers. And Vermont is one of only several states that allow brewers to self-distribute their product. And this has been, I think, one of the keys that's been the success to some of the breweries around the state. I mentioned Heather Darby as one of the key expertise that we have here in Vermont. There's another gentleman down here in this part of the state, Chris Callahan, who is also at UVM Extension and brings a world of knowledge around engineering, processing, and the equipment side of production for both the farming and producer community. And he's done a lot with oilseed crop production down in this part of the state, and now is looking at how it can help on the hops and barley side. Beer and alcohol, highly regulated industry, we all know that. But I think from what I understand and what I've seen in the Farm to Plate plan, we do have some great resources with the staff at the Department of Liquor Control. Bill Groggins is a gentleman who, if you don't know who that person is, he runs the Department of Liquor Control and should be a good resource for all of you folks. I'm going to move on to spirits briefly. There's as I mentioned, a whole chapter on spirits. But I think with the spirit side of things, there is more opportunity to source local. Vermont's been very successful in using local sugar beets and fruits, maple syrup, corn, honey, even milk whey, to create some really interesting and award-winning spirits. And for them, in this case, tasting rooms have been the real draw. One of the findings from the plan, though, was the real need for the whole industry in general was to help fruit growers be more successful in their own business. So that technical assistance component is one part of success in the whole distillery industry. There are 15 distilleries now operating in Vermont, and someone had called it a real modern distilling revival. So I think, again, this taste of place, people wanting to know where not only their food, but their drink is coming from is really, really happening. Hard cider, you had mentioned hard cider, one of the fastest growing segments of the spirits industry, and it's really riding on the success of craft beer. And there's a big benefit of hard cider to apple orchards, similar to that of cheese with dairy farms, and helping them get their product, their maybe less useful product to market in a value-added way. I saw a quote by Woodchuck Cider. Most folks know those guys are probably one of the biggest players in the hard cider industry in the United States, and they're based in Middlebury, Vermont. They really see that there's significant potential growth for hard cider. It's 0.2% of the beer of the overall beer market in the US, but it's 20% in the UK. So if you think about trends, it really has some opportunity. We do have a Vermont Distillers Association in the state, so again, enough critical mass if there's associations really trying to back up and build the industry. And as I mentioned before, I think that Vermont hard cider seems to be on the leading edge of it, and spirits and more broadly, of a trend emphasizing quality, craftsmanship, and support for local farmers over mass production, all of which we do really well in Vermont, and you can do really well in southern Vermont. Findings from the plan include strategies such as increasing research on agronomics of growing some of these crops that can support the beer and spirits industry, allowing distillers some of the same benefits that wineries, cideries, and breweries have to sell their products online. Right now, distilleries can't do that, but all the other sectors can. And there was even a strategy to create a promotion board in Vermont that includes reps from industries in an advisory capacity for all things beer, wine, and spirits. So these are some of the things that the plan talks about, and there's a real opportunity for folks in this room to get engaged if you're not already as part of the network. I guess given that I wear a financing hat, I'd be remiss if I didn't finish up with just a little piece that the plan also includes what's called a financing inventory. So it really helps identify, based on what type of money you're looking for, whether it's grant or debt or equity or incentives, where you might find various funding and investment here in the state of Vermont. And that financing inventory is on vtfoodatlas.com. And there are cards over on the table that have the website and have the resources as well. And I want to mention the financing piece because it is such a critical piece. I think oftentimes people don't really think about the need that you really have to find the right match of capital for your stage of growth, the scale that you want to grow to, and the market that you're selling into. Those are all factors that help you determine what's the right kind of money to help me grow my business. And finally, don't go alone. There's a lot of resources available. I think we're going to hear from Brian DeClue from the SBDC at some point, and really opportunity. There's a lot of folks willing to help you as entrepreneurs and farmers really grow this market sector down here in the States. As I mentioned, I have a ton of resources. I'll be over at the table when we're done, and I'm going to quiz you all. What's the website address? vtfoodatlas.com. You got it. All right. So next in line, here we are. We're going to get an update from the SBA from Chris Herman.
All right, so I am here standing in for Brian DeClue with the SBDC. Sorry he couldn't make it, but SBA is the primary funder of the SBDC, and they are our technical arm. And he's a great guy if you would like to just sit down with someone and talk about a business plan or any number of things, financing, business planning, cash flow projections, all kinds of stuff. Anyway, so he has an office right here with Peter Odierna at the BCIC, and he's happy to meet with you. He's here at least once a week, and if he gets more business, he'll be here twice a week. So what I want to talk about is the SBA. So we are a federal agency. It's the U.S. Small Business Administration. And what we do is provide counseling through our technical arm, which is the Small Business Development Center. Brian DeClue is the person that covers this area. And access to capital through mainly loan guarantees. Now I can tell you that with one exception, every name that's been mentioned here today, producers, was financed in some way through the SBA. So we love breweries, we love hard cider manufacturers, we love distilleries, and we know how to finance them. And when I say that, what I mean is when you go to the bank to get your financing, sometimes it's a challenge, and you may not have exactly the perfect package. Happens all the time, especially with microbreweries and distilleries. Well, this is where you, the SBA can come in and provide a guarantee. The guarantee is actually for the bank, makes the bank feel a little bit better about the situation, and then they can finance you. But what we really like to do is collaborate with other agencies. You know, we'll work with the USDA if they've got a project that looks like, you know, we could step in and provide some assistance in some way. VEDA, Vermont Economic Development Authority. We work with lots of different credit unions, banks, other financial institutions, community capital. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but basically what we do is provide the backing which makes the financial institution feel better about you. So, it's a great way to get financed, and again, we love breweries. I think last year, 2013, we did 8 breweries and hard cider manufacturers, and over the last 10 years, we've done about 40. So, if there are that many, we've done quite a big percentage of those. All right, so mostly the way we can get involved with you personally is to talk one-on-one. We have experts in our office. We can talk about contracting, supply chain. I immediately would hook someone up with Peter Odierna so that he knows what's going on if you need locations. A perfect location here. This couldn't be any more beautiful. What a great place to be. Collaborate. Everybody work together, buy local hops. I just think it's a fantastic idea. So as a federal agency, what we can do is reach our hand out and act as an advocate for you. It's one of the things we do. We can reach out and find other agencies for you to work with, and then provide you with counseling that can calm you down when those situations happen, when somebody tells you no. Because that doesn't mean you have to walk out the door. Let's work together and make this work, and then come over here so that the owner of this property doesn't have to go to the store and buy beer. Because that's what he wants. He told me that when I came in. All right, so I think that's about it for me. My cards are going to be on the back table, and now we're going to talk to, Michael Harrington from the town of Bennington about the Bennington Revolving Loan Fund.
Thanks, Chris. I would also encourage you to reach out to Chris or Brian. The town and the Office of Economic and Community Development work very closely with them with some of the different small business projects we've had. The first thing I want to say is just thank you to each and every one of you for having an interest in doing this. I think as many of you know, and probably have known before I or any of the other experts in the room, that the idea of home brewing and distilling is growing in this area in the Northeast, specifically in Vermont. So thank you for continuing that trend. Thank you for thinking about Bennington and how Bennington can play a role in that. Through my office, the Office of Economic and Community Development, our focus is around bringing resources, incentives, and people together to grow small business in Bennington, and specifically locally owned and operated small business, which each one of you are at this point. And I've talked with a handful of you about different projects. In all honesty, I'm really excited. The more we talk about them, the more we think about what they might look like, whether it's talking about the type of product that's being produced, where it might be produced, how it might be sold. Many of you have talked to me about tasting rooms and what that might look like, which I think is an awesome idea. And I think those are the types of things that not only give Bennington brand recognition and name recognition, but it also provides the opportunity for Bennington to be a destination, which I imagine, having talked with many of you, that's what you're envisioning as well. This may be, as many of you have looked at, a perfect site for that. There may be opportunities that I'm hoping that through this conversation and the ability for each one of you to meet each other, for you to build connections, to be able to share resources and work together. Because the hardest thing about business is starting a business. And so in the beginning, the more help and support you can have, whether it's through partners in the field or people like myself and the other people in the room who are providing services, that's what's going to keep your company going. And so I encourage you, as you're making the rounds tonight, you're connecting with one another and thinking about what synergies or connections can be made to make opening a business and operating a business and maintaining a business that much more viable. Because I know there are a lot of different challenges that are out there, and many of you have shared those with me. I'll be here for most of the evening, so feel free to ask questions regarding what I'm going to just mention real briefly about our loan and other incentive programs that we offer. I'll have business cards as well. But I think what you're going to hear over and over and over again from me, from others, from Terry, who was speaking earlier about water and wastewater, is that Bennington has the capacity and it has the ability to service this type of industry, and we want to make sure that that happens. And so as we continue to have this conversation, I'm certainly open to continuing that conversation with each and every one of you. I want to just share a little bit about the Office of Economic Development in terms of the incentives we have. I've got handouts that will be on the back that really share just a brief section about our revolving loan funds and also our tax stabilization program, which are two programs that I think will apply to some of you. The loan funds, Bennington has, through a number of different ways, received different sources of funding over the years that it has turned into revolving loan. And the reason it's called revolving loan is that it goes out, it's loaned to somebody, it's paid back, it's turned over, and re-loaned out to someone else. And so we have right now 2 active revolving loan programs, a small business loan program and a townwide housing loan program. The housing loan program doesn't really apply to what we're talking about here tonight, but the small business loan does. And the business loan really looks for either new or expanding businesses, people who are having trouble finding financing through another financial institution, someone that has the ability and the idea to put the boots on the ground to make this happen, someone looking for somewhere between $2,000 and $35,000 worth of financing, and that can come in a number of different ways. The things that the program does cover are things like hard fixtures, furnishings, equipment that's needed, some startup inventory, but it's usually hard assets. Some renovation to buildings and spaces that might need to happen. What it doesn't cover are things like operational expense, so salaries, payroll, taxes, fees, and other things along those lines. The program right now currently has an interest rate of 3.625, so it is very competitive with the other interest rates that are out there. But it's not a program that's meant to be competitive with other banks. It's meant for the high-risk project or business that is looking to get started where somebody is having trouble finding financing. And so, again, I encourage you, you need to go through local financing options and other options that were presented here tonight before accessing these funds, but they are available. I mentioned in here, we currently have about 34 active business loans that are out there, and for a total balance of over $700,000. So they are happening. They happen on an annual basis. We do probably a dozen or so a year, and have funded everything from expansion projects to rehab projects to small business implementation projects. The other piece to that, and I can talk more specifics, the best thing to do is really just set up a time with me to have a conversation, talk about the business, what you have in mind. If you're a new business looking to get started, we do require a business plan to access the funds, so that's why it's important to either put the time in if you've already been working on a business plan to make sure it's a solid plan, but also you can access Brian DeClue's office at the Small Business Development Center, who we've used a number of times for the business plan option that he provides. The other piece that I want to mention real quickly, and I'll wrap up with this, is tax stabilization. The idea around tax stabilization is that for projects that are coming with major construction or reconstruction, there is the opportunity that for someone who might be looking at a few $100,000 or a multi-million-dollar construction project, that if they were worried about the tax assessment that would occur upon completion of the project, that the town would be willing to phase in those taxes that increase over a 5-year period. And so it wasn't a massive hit all at once at the completion of the project. So you may not be at that point right now, but as you think down the road to major expansion, that is also an opportunity that a number of businesses in Bennington have taken advantage of. And I think it's helped them in a number of different ways. There's much more in the realm of funding, depending on what you're looking to do, where you're looking to do it, and the different types of organizations that you're looking to become involved with. And so one of the things I mentioned in here is that these are the 2 programs that the town of Bennington offers, but we also recognize that each situation is different. And so I want you to just know that one of the things about being such a small community is that we can be very agile and flexible. And we have a group of people that work for the town right now who are very open to the idea of new and innovative ways to assist small business. And so if one of these doesn't quite fit, but you think there might be something that could help your project get off the ground, besides us just handing you a blank check, and not expecting it to be paid back, because there isn't that option. But if you have an idea in mind that you think would really help launch your project off the ground, I'm always happy to sit down and listen to what that might be, and I'll do my best to work with you on that. So with that, I just want to say thank you very much. I'll stick around for any questions you have, but certainly the town and the rest of us here, and there's members of the chamber here and the Better Bennington Corporation, as well as a number of other organizations like the Regional Commission, they're all here to provide support to you, and so I would encourage you to reach out, contact them, and use them as a resource. That's what I'm going to leave you with. Feel free to ask questions later, and I'm going to throw it to comments from our master brewer, William Gardner.
Thanks, Mike. While I appreciate the title Master Brewer, I'll say I'm a brewer. I'm actually wearing multiple hats here tonight. First and foremost, I am the operations manager at CAT TV, so our local public access TV station. We are here tonight filming it, so it'll be replayed locally as well. I do brew professionally at Madison's Brewing Company here in town. Been there about a year and a half, but what really got me started was home brewing. And I wanted to talk just a little bit about that. People think of home brewing, you know, a couple buckets in the backyard with a couple burners. It's really exploded in the last 5 years or so. Excuse me, my system at home is pretty impressive. It's all stainless steel, costs about $1,500. So where I think a lot of this, you know, breweries and expansion in brewing in Vermont really started at the home brew level. So my third hat is I do own my own hop farm as well. We own Hop Ridge Farms over in New York State. We have about 500 plants in the ground, 7 rows with an 18-foot trellis system, drip irrigation, you know, potential harvest of about 200 pounds. And why hops are great to make beer with, people don't realize that there's a lot of other uses for hops as well, especially in the medical field. They're starting to do a lot of experimentation with the properties within hops, and that's another viable option down the road. So let's talk about beer culture. You know, it's a little difficult going last because a lot of people have hit home on some of my points, but it's important to understand. I think Bennington is a little bit behind in terms of beer culture. There's a lot of people that still think, you know, drinking beer is, you know, drinking Coors Light or Budweiser and this, that, and the other. We're not looking to attract that type of scene. It's really an appreciation of great local beer, fresh ingredients, not a bar atmosphere. So small, unique batches that really attract customers and create a buzz. You know, we're looking for people that are willing to pay $6 to $8 for, you know, a 16-ounce pour of beer. So it's very interesting. People, you know, there's still a bit of stigma attached to the beer culture. So let's talk about Vermont beer, hops. That is really the one word that would dominate the Vermont beer scene. There's other great offerings, you know, coconut porters, Gueuze, which is a new style, which is really a beer brewed with salt and coriander, and saisons as well. So a little test. Who has the #1 pale ale in Vermont? Nobody? I wish. Not yet. Actually, it's Edward from Bill Marshall. And 3 of the top 10 pales are in Vermont. 3 of the top 10 pale ales in the country are brewed in Vermont, which is pretty outstanding. So who has the #1 IPA in Vermont?
Petty Top.
Nope. Correct. So it's actually Susan from Hill Farmstead. And 3 of the top 10 IPAs also brewed in Vermont. Everyone knows the answer. The next one, the #1 double IPA in Vermont is Hetty Topper. But more impressive to me, 6 out of the top 10 double IPAs are in Vermont here, and 3 being Hill Farmstead. And again, more impressively, 19 out of the top 25 beers in New England are brewed in Vermont. So you can see this is a huge, obviously a huge infrastructure. If you go to places like Middlebury, Montpelier, Stowe, or Waterbury, these towns are destinations for people. People plan their vacations there. They go there for the beer, which is something that we really need to tap into and try to get down here in Bennington. the Alchemist can releases will bring in 3,000 people to Waterbury on a given Saturday. You can imagine what 3,000 people would do here in Bennington. So let's talk about the Bennington beer scene. There's Madison's. Madison is a brew hub. I do work there, I'm a brewer there. So, our interest is really brewing beer for the pub itself. We're not looking to make heady topper. We're looking to make good beer to pair with good food for our town. We have Northshire as well, which are doing some pretty good things, but there is a void. There is a void here, and I think that's a testament to the beer culture, just being a little bit behind. So myself, I'm exploring several options. I myself want to open my own brewery and perhaps tap room. I'd love to have a nice, beautiful, historical Bennington site downtown. Brew small batches of beer with a small tap room. Bring in other Vermont beer as well. I'd like to expand the hop growing business here in Vermont. And really engage farmers. I know someone touched upon this earlier, and to start growing barley. With this explosion of new breweries throughout the East Coast and the United States in general, the raw ingredients just aren't going to be there. The barley's not going to be there, the hops are not going to be there. They're already predicting a huge hop shortage as soon as next year. So, places like Heady Topper, they're contracting their hops out for the year. With these other little guys, Madison's included, we're not going to be able to get the hops that we need to brew the type of beers that we want to get. So we really, we need incentives. We need incentives to get started. What can the economic leaders of the town provide for us? So I want to talk a little bit about the farm brewery law in New York. I am a New Yorker. I like the Yankees, so you can boo me now. So doing some really cool things in New York State, the farm brewery law. So what it does is it basically consolidates all the licensing. So places like Vermont, you need a license to brew beer. You need a license to pour samples. You need a license to pour growlers. You need a license for this, that, and the other. Under the New York State Farm Brewery, it consolidates all of those licenses into one for $300, which is amazing. A typical brewer's license in any given state is in the thousands of dollars. The caveat with that is you have to use New York State grown hops and barley. So what's that do? That basically says we need people to start growing hops, we need people to start growing barley to support the farm brewers. So it's already paying off. There's 28 farm brewery licenses that have been issued since January. There's hop yards popping up all over the place, and actually about a mile down the road from our hop yard in New York, a fifth generational farmer decided to pull about 20 or so fields of corn and plant barley. He's looking to hopefully get started and actually malt that barley right at his facility, right in New York State. So the legislation is actually paying off. Also in New York State, they're offering tax-free zones. So for 10 years, you can have no income tax, no business tax, no corporate tax, no state or local taxes, no sales tax, no property tax, or franchise fees. I think this is something that definitely Bennington and Vermont itself should start looking into. So what's next? I think what we really need to do is to talk to our legislators and show them this farm brewery law. It's working. It's working in New York State. Why can't we have it here in Vermont? It's going to build small breweries, more hop farmers, people growing barley, people malting, and offer real incentives. Like myself, I have a business plan I've been working on for a while. I'm ready to pull the trigger on a brewery, but with all these incentives in New York State, it's tough not to want to stay in New York State and do that. But that said, I'd love to, be in Vermont with this setting, and obviously how hot Vermont beer is. Another thing is to, match up potential partners, match up investors with brewers. I know a lot of brewers, and none of them have a lot of money. So, I know a lot of people who have a lot of money who are interested in getting into the brewing game. So if we could, somehow match that up. Offering rent assistance, low interest loans, as Michael talked about, and explore the possibility of getting a brewery incubator going. So basically a group of maybe 5 brewers get together, pool their resources, buy one system, and they're all able to brew on that system, so under one license. So that is all that I have, and I will be throwing it over to Mr. Jamie Jerome.
Thank you, William. First, before I have a few closing words, I'd like to introduce Richard Collins from the BCIC. He has a few words for us.
Okay, good evening. My name is Rich Collins, and I just have a few quick closing comments on regards of the BCIC. I'm actually the engineering manager over at Energizer Battery, so, but more importantly, I'm a member of the BCIC Board of Directors, and hearing everybody speak tonight really reiterated to me why this is such a big, important deal for Southwestern Vermont and the BCIC. You know, our mission is the creation of jobs. And to me, there's two big things that really stood out tonight, hearing all the wonderful speakers. First of which, breweries, distilleries, they're destination places. And they create not only jobs, but that collateral job. I can speak for myself. I was at Omegon Brewery 2 weeks ago. I not only went to the brewery and heard about how the farmers supply the brew pub, but I ate at their restaurants, I stayed at their hotels, I fueled up my car with gas and everything. So it's certainly a job creation and a collateral job creation. The second of which is, as Vermonters, we're always looking for the right type of businesses. And I can't think of very many businesses that really fit with the Vermont brand and breweries, distilleries, the spirits and beer industry. I'm really excited to hear about all of these speakers tonight. And I know just, again, from personal experience, I took a keg of that North Shore Brewing to an event last year, and I still had people coming up to me saying, where did you get this stuff, and how can I get this stuff, and where did you get it from? So there's certainly, even though it's a lot up in Chittenden County, the base is still here, and we get some expertise that I think can certainly grow. So, on behalf of the entire board of directors of the BCIC, I want to thank all of our co-sponsors and all of the great speakers tonight. And I don't know about you, but I'm going to head to Madison's in about 5 minutes here. So, you guys have a good night. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I shouldn't be much longer than 5 minutes. I'm Jamie Jerome, your host this evening. Thank you all very much for coming. I'm going to take a minute and share with you what we have to offer out here at Colgate Park. We've got, we're tonight at the 1768 Hubble Homestead, which we carry a special events permit that's a permanent permit that we maintain for destination weddings, corporate functions, corporate retreats, concerts, festivals, and that. One of the unique things about Colgate Park is that next door to us to the west is the former Fairfield Farms processing plant. Terry Morris from the town was commenting on it and has some literature on it, but we have allocation of over 100,000 gallons a day for water and sewer discharge. We have great accessibility to Route 9, parking. The plant's about 25,000 square feet with an additional 20,000 square feet of outbuildings. It has a new power system, 3,000 amp, three-phase service. There's some old buildings there that were built back in the 30s, and there's some new buildings that were constructed as recently as the late 90s. So that's our interest and hope, myself and my family, to maybe entice a sustainable use for Colgate Park and the industrial area that we have. We also maintain permits for processing food, which is current over there. We have retail, professional office, restaurant. So it is a very diverse property. And we have some cards up there that are my wife Vicky's and her assistant manager Jessica. And you guys will be blessed by calling and scheduling with them instead of me, but you could always get a tour at any time of the property and potential rental space if any of you are interested. With that being said, thank you all very much for coming, and thank you to Peter and everybody else for putting this together and having a great vision of potentially making this Bennington a better destination than it already is. Thank you.
We will have a breakout session that will start shortly, so if you have any specific questions to any of the presenters, please save them for the breakout session. But if anybody has any general questions, Please step up to the mic so we can record the questions on CAT TV, and we'll do our best to answer them. Okay, well, thanks all for coming tonight, and as I said, the breakout session is going to start now, and this really is a tremendous opportunity, and I think it's incumbent upon us to find ways to work together to really capitalize on this opportunity. I think there's a lot of momentum behind this concept, and I think there's a tremendous amount of enthusiasm. So thanks to everybody for showing up, and hopefully before too long we can start to see this concept bearing some fruit. Thank you.